So I just got done watching Netflix's original series Siempre Bruja, which I definitely have quite a few thoughts on, and we'll just consider this my Black History Month content. So Siempre Bruja is about a Afro-Latina witch named Carmen who is the slave to a rich white family in 1646 Cartagena. She's about to be burned at the stake for being accused of bewitching the slave master's son, Cristobal, who is in love with her. And in order to prevent her fate and his death, she makes a deal with a time-traveling wizard named Aldemar the Immortal to travel back in time just before the time of his death. But before she can do that, Aldemar needs her to go to the future and retrieve a crystal that he needs in order to conduct a spell. So it's basically Romeo and Juliet with time traveling and magic. I want to say kudos to Netflix for incorporating more diversity in their catalog, not just racially, but also culturally. They are really stepping up their content as far as having more diverse cultures within their catalog. And that was a part of what grabbed me. I was grabbed not only by the beautiful dark chocolate girl that plays Carmen, but also by the fact that this story was set in a different culture. That was really fascinating to me. Right now I'm writing a story about witches, so I'm absorbing as much as I can about magic from all types of cultures. Second of all, I want to talk about the strengths of this story and then get into the weaknesses. The setting of the story, so that leads me into the setting. The setting of the story, it takes place in Cartagena, which is just a gorgeous, gorgeous location for a setting. It looks like paradise. It always looks warm there. It always looks like everybody is beach ready. And I noticed that in the clothes that everyone was wearing. All of their clothes had floral print. All of their clothes looked lightweight. It looked like you could wear their clothes both in normal everyday life, but then you could also just get ready and go to the beach in them too. The setting is gorgeous, and I love that the setting ties into the actual plot of the story. There are some stories that they sort of just take place in a certain location just to take place in a certain location, but Siempre Bruja doesn't feel like that. It kind of feels as if it is integral to the plot of the story for it to take place in Cartagena, because there's so much culture threaded throughout the plot, especially with the magical elements. The magic of the story feels authentic, and it feels very much specific to the location in which it's in which it's taking place. So I loved that aspect of it. I loved seeing this gorgeous paradise. I loved watching these backgrounds. I mean, the show itself is bright and vibrant and beautiful, and I could just watch it all day. And I also love the music. I like the language. I liked everything about the cultural aspect of the story, which I felt really strengthened the plot of the story. The strongest point of Siempre Bruja, which I felt really carried the story along, was the characters. The entire cast is super engaging. They seem as if they have a great chemistry off screen, because it definitely translates to their chemistry on screen. They feel like a group of friends. They feel like a millennial group of friends. Everybody works well off each other. Everyone is a good actor. I mean, this is a pretty well acted show in my opinion. And like I said, the characters are engaging and they're fun. You do like them. They're very likable. They're enjoyable. They hit their beats. They're funny when they need to be funny. They're dramatic when they need to be dramatic. And they carry the story forward, especially main character Carmen. Carmen, for the most part, is a strong protagonist. She is headstrong. She is determined. She is goal-oriented. She's a go-getter. She's also very sweet and kind and caring and nurturing. And I enjoy watching her in this futuristic setting. I feel as if she plays it very realistic to how I would expect someone from a different time period to play it in this type of story. She does give off that sort of naivete and that innocence that you would expect of someone who traveled hundreds of years into the future. She acclimates really quickly, sometimes a little bit too quickly, in my opinion. However, I feel like it makes sense for her to get acclimated with the technology and things like that of this decade, because she is posing as a university student and she's surrounded by millennials. So I liked how that sort of played into her character growth over the course of the series. One last positive that I like to talk about is the magical element of the show. I love that different types of magic are starting to work their way into mainstream. And what I mean by that is, I think with Charmed, it kind of sparked an interest in, particularly in Wicca, which is cool. Wicca is nice, but there are so many different types of magic, especially that have black and brown roots, and they don't get the same type of appreciation and love, especially voodoo and hoodoo and things of that nature. So I hope that there in the future, moving forward, that there are more examples of magic from different cultures that come into the forefront in the mainstream media. That's what I have for the good, but now it's time to get into the bad. And the first thing I have to talk about is the pacing of this show. The pacing of this show is really wonky. For one thing, Carmen does get acclimated way too quickly. She, 1 minute she's wearing the clothes she came in the 1600s, and you blink your eye and the next thing you know, she's wearing an entire modern wardrobe, and I have no idea where the hell she got it from. I'm sure she stole it, because I did see at least one scene where she stole clothes, but up until that point, Carmen was just changing clothes, and I had no idea where the hell she got them from. She found herself somewhere to stay pretty much immediately, and it was just a little jarring because, again, it's like, you just got here. So how in the world did you find a place to stay this quickly? Also, her friend group adopted her into the fold super fast. It was just like, 1 minute she just happened to be hanging on the fringes of this group of friends, and the next minute they're all going to a party together, which I guess it does kind of speak to how quickly you tend to gravitate towards people and make friends in college, because college is a new environment and you're getting to know people, and it's new to you, it's new to them, so you just kind of find your tribe and you hang out with them, especially freshman year. But it just felt like she was welcomed into this fold really quickly, and there weren't enough questions asked. I feel like had this been a little bit more realistic, someone would have definitely asked a few more questions. And I understand that they can't dwell on it first but so long, because Netflix only gives you about 10 to 12 episodes to work with when it comes to their original series. But it just kind of felt like she just acclimated and integrated into modern society sometimes a little bit too quickly, and I would blink my eye and we would be on to another plot point. There was one episode in particular where Carmen is she's hexed or bewitched, and you start to see the effects of it really quickly, but it's like it's not like gradually over time. It's like 1 minute she's regular old Carmen, and then the next minute it's just like she's losing her shit. You know what I'm saying? And it's a little jarring because it doesn't happen gradually. It happens in the matter of like one sentence. She would be talking about something and it would be like she had a grasp on it in one, in that sentence, and then in the next sentence she didn't know what you were talking about. And that could have been a deliberate choice on the part of the writers to make us experience the same confusion that Carmen was experiencing. But for me, it was just kind of like, what? I looked away for like 5 seconds, and all of a sudden Carmen doesn't know who she is or where she is or why she's here. What? When did that happen? This show moves at a really weird pace, and you have got to pay attention or you will lose. You won't get too lost to where you can't pick things up, but you will be kind of like, huh? Super weak plot point was the new romantic interest. When Carmen goes into the future, she meets someone who becomes her new romantic interest, and he's so bland. I'm just like, this guy is so boring. I didn't even realize that there was supposed to be a romantic spark between him and Carmen, because he has no personality. Most of the time when he's on screen, I'm like, why the fuck are you here? You don't offer anything. You're not interesting. Who are you? Like, what are you doing here? Why are you hanging out with them? And so when it came out that he was supposed to have had a crush on Carmen, or, like Carmen, I was like, what? It just felt so forced and so unnecessary. He ain't it. That ain't it. I'm sorry. I do want Carmen to have a romance, but that ain't it. Speaking of romance, that leads me into the biggest issue with this show, and that is the main romantic plotline between Carmen and Cristobal. Okay, we have got to stop with these romantic plot lines between slave and slave master. It doesn't matter how much chemistry they have. It doesn't matter how sweet the slave master is. It doesn't matter how cute they look together. It doesn't matter how attractive they are. It is not a good romantic plot point. When you have a power dynamic that is that unbalanced and that fucked up, you cannot have a good romance. Period. Trigger warning, but worst of all, if he decided that he wanted to have a sexual relationship with Carmen, and Carmen obviously didn't want to have a sexual relationship with him because she is a slave, she has no choice. He can do what he wants. You see how the lack of agency and autonomy on the other end makes this dynamic really fucked up. The thing about it is that with a little bit of tweaking, it could have been a relationship that worked. Let's say that Cristobal was a family member to, like a distant family member, like a cousin or a nephew to the family that owned Carmen, not a direct owner of her. Okay, then you just have to deal with class difference and difference in status, but there is no ownership. Obviously, there's still an imbalance, but it's not as if she doesn't have any autonomy whatsoever. Or if he was an indentured servant or something like that, then okay, it could have worked. But as it stands, like, the relationship is super cringy, and I hate it because I actually think they have chemistry together. I think that they're cute together. I actually like their scenes. It's a guilty, it was actually a pretty guilty pleasure to see them looking so cute and romantic, but I have to acknowledge a problem where I see a problem. And that problem comes in with those power dynamics. Which leads me to my final issue with the show, which is, why couldn't Carmen have a black love interest? In fact, why couldn't there be more Afro-Latinos in general? I feel like it was definitely a missed opportunity. And while I'm all for interracial romance on screen, especially involving black female leads and attractive non-black male leads, it would be nice to see two unambiguous chocolate people, young people, together in a relationship. So that's all I've got. Overall, I think this is a good show. I had fun with it. I thought it was cute. I thought it was vibrant. I thought it was fun. I thought it had its corny moments. It definitely had its weak points. But overall, I am curious to see where they go with this in the future if they continue. I recommend giving this show a watch. I think people are going a little too hard on it, but I do understand the criticism. I say check it out. I think it is worth the watch, and I enjoyed it.